Hello, and welcome to episode 154 of Random Encounter, the RPG Fan Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Heemsbergen, and I'm Embryonix on Twitter. That's at EMBRYONX. And today it's just the dynamic duo of me and my lovely co-host, Greg Delmage.
Hello, everybody. I am Greg Delmage, and I am Greg Delmage, or at Greg Delmage, rather, on the Twitter. And G Delmage if you want to chat at me in our Discord.
You could very well do that. Greg is the one who goes into the Discord and actually fields questions from folks for the podcast. So I'm not sure that we have any for this episode, but he is the one to reach out to if you have any burning questions for us.
Mm-hmm.
But
about games.
Yes, please do that. Well, guys, it's time for another random encounter, and that means it's time to talk about some video games. My big thing that I've been doing recently, I will get into later in the show, because I recently attended the Final Fantasy XIV Fan Festival 2018 in Las Vegas. And so I'm very excited about all of that, but I want to delve more into that probably towards the latter half of the show. Our schedule is slipping a little bit. We're doing about every 3 weeks episodes these days, but hopefully you all still enjoy them just the same when they come out. And I will do the Rob Steinman customary apology for something that may not happen. My radiators are kicking on. This is my first time living in the Midwest, so it gets cold here, as it turns out. It's not like Tucson, Arizona, where I can just wear, a hoodie or like a hoodie and a long sleeve shirt. No, I have to wear a lot of layers, and it gets quite chilly. So I'm living in a place with radiators for the first time, and oh my God, they are so loud. So loud.
Especially when they first kind of kick into gear.
They just kind of make noise the whole time they're generating heat.
Oh, okay, good.
They just hiss, and it sounds like I left the bath on and it's exploding all at the same time. I don't know. It's very odd.
They don't do you get the whole groaning and stuff as the metal expands from the heat and stuff? Or?
Yeah, it's a whole thing. I mean, my apartment was fairly recently renovated. We're the first people to live in this unit since it was renovated, and on my floor, I live in a 7th-floor building, and on my floor, I'm one of 2 tenants because everything else is still under construction. So it's very nice and redone, but they still have these old ass radiators that make a ton of noise. It's also quite warm and cozy, so I can't complain. Anyway,
pretty easy to heat those little spaces, I imagine.
Yeah, it's just a 1-bedroom, so that may happen, that noise. But first, I want to check in with Greg. I know you've been focusing on the RPG Fan video side of things, which is a fairly new initiative for the site, yes?
It is, yeah. We've been doing a lot of work, and obviously we don't want to blow too much of what we're working on early, but we've been just kind of testing out some content ideas to kind of dip our toe in the water. We're not fully committing to a full video series overly much. I mean, Quentin has done what he's gotten to, and then he got really busy at the holiday rush at his work, so he's kind of slowed down, but he's going to have something coming out for everyone because that seemed to be really well received. And yeah, I think that he wants to get more of that stuff coming out, and it's definitely a great place to begin. And then we have other things to kind of fill out our social media presence. And that's kind of what I've been working on, and a lot of that has been kind of building a database for that content. So I've been staring at spreadsheets a lot over the past few weeks, trying to build the database of games and such that we want to cover, and it's a lot. So
yeah,
when you get that ready to hopefully start rolling out at least one of these segments for December. So look forward to fun stuff about video games and know-how about them and such. It's going to have a little bit of some factoids and such.
That is what we aim to deliver here at rpgfan.com, is coverage of video games.
That's true. And there's definitely a lot of other places that have done the similar idea than what we're going to be working on. But again, we try to want to make it our own. So that's why we're putting in that little bit of extra effort, a little bit of extra work, and to make sure we're ready to go. And we'll have something that feels familiar, but we'll still very much be oh, but RPG Band did it like this, So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, particularly our editor-in-chief, Mike Salvato, is very committed to quality. He has a very strong creative vision, and if you notice, sometimes seemingly innocuous things like news articles on Final Fantasy XIV will have really, really lengthy and well, what am I trying to say? Good write-ups. It's not just here's the news. Mike Salvato really likes to go in. He'll upload super high quality assets to the galleries. So if you've never checked our media section on the site, or if it's been a while, you should check it because we've got like the highest resolution art and screenshots you can find for a lot of games in there. And anyway,
And
so
we've been getting some good stuff too from Scott. One of our streamers has been going back to some of the older titles that he has and doing some capture footage to try and update back in the day when we had just those little teeny tiny JPEGs that we just can't find a better source for.
Yeah. To this day, sometimes if I Google an RPG's name, I will get in the image results, one of the top ones will be an image from RPG Fan, and it's like a 200 by 200 postage stamp of Grandia 3 or something. So yeah, it'd be
Fan
nice
though,
to fix those.
art searches. That's
Yeah.
why we discovered the website for just finding art for my own little like kind of D&D forum RPG thing for character art. So that's what got in there. So I completely understand. Ooh, apparently I opened a treasure chest. Sorry, folks. I should turn off the phone.
That's okay. I thought it sounded like your rice was done. A lot of folks actually came to the site through, weirdly enough, the top 20 PSP games feature. That one still tracks consistently as one of the most trafficked links on RPG Fan as a whole. And that's also why more recently a lot of the staff has put together some lists like the top 3DS games and Vita games. Are both of those out? I think they are.
The Vita one just came out just this week, actually, I think.
Okay, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was yesterday or it was Friday. It was in the last few days. It just came up.
Yes, those are an excellent read. I did not have a chance to contribute to those, but everybody who did an amazing job. So please go to our features page, check those out, get some recommendations for some of those games you may have missed.
November 18th. There we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so literally 2 days ago as of this recording.
I am arguably grateful that you weren't able to contribute because then I didn't have to fight you for talking about Theater Rhythm.
Oh my God.
Ready.
That is my favorite 3DS game, and you know it.
I know. That's why I was like, I want to write about it, but I want to let Derek have first pick.
No,
and I was
that's very nice of you.
Happy to write about Majora's Mask as my runner-up. Then I got to do both, so yay!
Heck yeah!
Yeah, no, they were great. They're a great source for people to just kind of go to and see, did I miss something? Because not everyone's able to keep up on the hottest new releases. So it's a great way to go back, especially with how old the 3DS library is getting for its long lifetime. It's a lot easier to pick these titles up on the cheap.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody likes a curated list, a top whatever, because part of the fun is seeing how things are ranked, and the other part of it is just like, okay, well, if all of these titles made this list, they're varying degrees of quality, and I should probably check them out. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess that stands as our little unintended plug. So go check those features out, please. Another thing that I know you're working on, Greg, which is a thing that we had discussed very early on before you started at the site, because you are a father of a young gamer. We wanted to get some perspective from you and from your daughter Gwen. So you're working on a new feature with her, right?
That I am. We were. Back when with the holidays coming up, we thought it'd be prudent to kind of maybe do the first dip my toe in the water with introducing Gwen into the website and getting her ideas for concepts and such. And we're going to try and put together like a top suggested list of RPGs that she thinks is appropriate for kids around her age, whether it is outright playing or outright just watching. Because obviously there's a lot of stuff that's a bit out of her skill range, but she just loves to spectate because Gwen's definitely a product of like the YouTube generation where she just likes to sit and watch. The amount of stuff she'll come to me with like, did you know this about Cuphead? Did you know this about this game? Like, what are you playing? She's like, oh, no, I just watched someone play it on YouTube. Also, they didn't do any swears. It's okay, I promise.
Like, Scouts on
guarantee they probably did swears. Anyways, so there's been a few games that like obviously she's been able to grasp and play, like Pokemon Yokai Watch, stuff like that, but then there's been others where she just likes to sit back and take in. So I kind of been talking to her about her games that she thinks is appropriate for that. And while I don't have the full list compiled and I don't want to spoil too much about her thoughts on them, I can let people know that very importantly, stuff like Secret of Mana and Chrono Trigger and Super Mario RPG did make that list, so I feel like I'm doing parenting right.
She is a very cultured 8-year-old.
Mm-hmm. And I'll definitely be diving into more on that. But what was fun about it too, because I was really hoping to like keep it Christmassy too, not just with like the holidays coming up and trying to get into the whole buy these games, but more just kind of keep it significant with the 12 days of Christmas. And we discovered that Gwen has been exposed to basically 12 RPGs exactly. So it kind of worked out that we can do like a list of her 12 games of Christmas kind of thing. So
Aw.
Her and I will be discussing that at great length because it was a very, very elaborate process to figure out what order all these games were. Number one was very obvious, but after that, she was very like anxious about trying to figure out how to place them in her top 12 order. So it was very fun. And then from there, we want to discuss as to why she ordered them the way she did and what she has to say about them. So I can kind of turn that into a nice little quick feature, very similar to our top 3DS games and top PSP games and such. So,
That
or
is
I guess Vita
excellent.
games, sorry.
And that's
Yeah, it
something
will
that you're
be.
not really going to see on many other websites.
No, it's definitely a gap that I think a lot of other websites kind of overlook. And it's something that we see as reviewers too, where people rail against certain games in a way, and we've talked about this a bit on the podcast in the past, that just we overlook who's this game meant for, what's the audience of this thing, right? You know, like people will possibly have certain opinions on Pokemon Let's Go that are different from like what their kids will think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I brought up in Little Dragons Cafe, like I see a lot of the seams when I was playing Little Dragons Cafe, but Gwen can very easily overlook that and just get immersed and just love the fact that she has a dragon, embrace all these quirky characters, and just love it. So that I think is really important to remember in context. As much as we as reviewers are mostly all adults, it's very easy to be a lot more critical than what the intended audience would be.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this will give a little bit of insight on what a kid might think of a lot of these RPGs that we're so enamored with, and see how they
Exactly.
hold up maybe with her fresh perspective. Yeah.
And it can help adult like parents of gamers and such really find the bridge of like where and when can I introduce my daughter or son or however they identify into the gaming world, because it can be a very tough bridge to gap sometimes.
Yeah.
Or sorry, tough gap to bridge rather is the there we go. I'm not
Tough
destroying the
bridge to
bridge. I'm
get.
building
No,
the
it's
bridge.
okay. I processed it the right way.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it can be hard to kind of figure out when and how should I introduce my children to what kind of games, and will they get the games of the past? Are kids all hung up on graphics and stuff like that? And it turns out Gwen, while she does have opinions sometimes, she still has a certain respect for like good quality pixel art, like Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana. But she also loves a 3D world like Breath of the Wild and Dragon's Cafe and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah,
I
look forward to
hearing
that
your thoughts.
feature and being informed.
For sure. What are you guys going to play over the holidays? Do you have any fun gaming presents under the tree that you're going to play together?
Well, she is right now. She's at a friend, so I can't talk about this at my own liberty. We managed to snag a special edition Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu Switch for Christmas as our big family Christmas gift. This year she's at her dad's, so Santa will visit her when she's at her dad's place. So all the Santa gifts will go there. But the one that we'll get her, it's going to be one for all three of us because we all want it.
Right.
And so she'll have Let's Go Eevee to probably be her big her Christmas play.
That is fantastic and fits right in with what we were just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Eevee
is her favorite Pokemon, so she's going to be pretty stoked.
How good.
Yeah, she's been very excited since she saw these games kind of come out. As much as she loves Pikachu, and she was Pikachu for Halloween, Eevee is her jam.
Right on. I picked that one up myself. I haven't played it very much at all. It arrived while I was gone for the weekend at the Final Fantasy Fan Festival. So when I got back,
which is going to be a great segue.
Yeah, when I got back, I was just exhausted, and I've sort of barely touched it. But I'm excited to see more about it. Yeah, I might as well jump into Fan Festival just because we're on the subject. Doing? So I was very fortunate, and I was able to attend Final Fantasy XIV Fan Festival in Las Vegas. I went there to cover it on behalf of my other journalism outlet, CGM, and so I got to go to the Rio Hotel and watch all of the FanFest stuff in person. They were streaming it all on Twitch for free this year, with the exception of the 2 concerts that they held there. In previous years, you had to actually buy like a stream key to watch the proceedings, and they were like $30 or something. So this year they kind of eased up and allowed everything to be broadcasted. But I think there's a certain magic to being there in the room and experiencing the energy for yourself.
Yeah, that everyone out there psyching out with you.
Yes, I'm really easily swept up in the emotion of excited crowds. I've noticed, like, anytime I ever go to a concert or like a movie or a theater production or something, and people get really excited, it tends to like wash over me and make me, I kind of choke up easily.
So I identify with that.
Yeah, so when I was at Fan Festival, it launched with the keynote address, which is where they announced Final Fantasy XIV's third expansion, Shadowbringers. It looks super cool. It's coming out in summer 2019, and yeah, it's thematically taking a little bit of a shift for Final Fantasy XIV. Up to this point, the story has been that you're the warrior of light, basically the savior of the world. But there's been this thread running beneath everything that kind of people haven't really been sure how it was going to factor into everything or how important it was. But there's this idea that light and dark need to be balanced in the world of Hydaelyn in Final Fantasy XIV. And things that you've been doing as a warrior of light have been steadily tipping the balance in favor of light. And that in itself is not a good thing. And it's now reaching the point where there's going to be sort of like a light based apocalypse where light is going to engulf everything and your world will be reduced to nothing.
Ooh.
So, because of that, you need to now take up the mantle of the Warrior of Darkness. And we're not really sure exactly what that's going to entail, but the really slick looking CG cinematic that they showed us at Fan Festival showed the sort of player character stand-in that they have in all the CG trailers. He switches through a bunch of jobs while he's trying to fight this like light goddess looking thing. And at the end, he finally switches his job to Dark Knight, which is actually a job that's in the game already. So it's interesting that they're making that into like the sort of poster of the expansion. But he switches to Dark Knight, and he's finally able to prevail over her. And it's he's very brooding, and it looks very dark and kind of edgy. But oh, hello there, Hammering. Haven't heard you recently. So yeah, it's going to be kind of an interesting shift. Most of the main features that they talked about for the expansion were things that we expect to be coming in a new Final Fantasy XIV expansion, like the level cap will raise. We'll have new dungeons. We'll have new areas. We'll have a couple of new jobs. One surprise is that the long-requested Blue Mage job is making its way to Final Fantasy XIV. But
I saw that in the promo art. I was very excited for that.
Yeah, it looks really cool. It's actually coming before the expansion Shadowbringers. It's going to come in the next major patch for the game, which is in January.
Happy New Year, y'all.
Yeah, and it's going to be different. It's Final Fantasy XIV's first ever so-called limited job, and what that means is it is not really designed to be a standard job that you play in parties all the time. They're capping it at a lower level to begin with. It's going to cap at level 50. Right now, the level cap is 70 and will raise to 80 with Shadowbringers. So it's going to start at 50 cap, and it's intended to be something that you kind of play solo because you can get into parties, but there's a bunch of restrictions on like you can't auto group with other players using it because it doesn't fall into one of the conventional roles. You can't take it into certain content, I think. I know that there are a lot of restrictions in place, but the main idea is because you need to learn monster abilities per the lore of the Blue Mage class, you have to actually like fight monsters that use certain attacks, see them, and then defeat the monster, and you'll have a chance of learning it. So there's like 49 abilities to start out, which is more than any class has, I believe, on their hotbar to begin with. And you can only set like 24 of them. But anyway, so the main sort of objective of it is to go out into the world, fight monsters and learn their abilities. And you go into this special solo content like instance called the Masked Carnival, where you go against waves of enemies using your Blue Mage abilities, and you have to triumph over them by exploiting their weaknesses and stuff. So it's interesting. It's quite a different take on a class for Final Fantasy XIV. It's not like your typical I'm going to switch to Blue Mage, and now I'm going to be a magic DPS in all my parties. Like, so it'll be
sounds like it's becoming like they're getting a little Pokemon Go in your Final Fantasy XIV.
There's definitely a collection aspect to it that I find very enticing. Yeah, and they are still adding their more new jobs in the Shadowbringers expansion, which will be sort of the typical jobs. Another thing they're doing for Final Fantasy XIV is they're really upping the cross-server communication type stuff. They're basically going to make it so that you can hop between any server on your data center, which is kind of like a cluster of servers. At present, there are just 2 data centers in North America, and they're about to raise it to 3 and kind of restructure, reshuffle where all the servers are. But with the new systems they're putting in place, as long as my friends are on any of the like 7 or 8 servers on my cluster, I can just hop between servers instantly. No fee, no process, you just click on like the teleport crystal and choose where you want to go. So it seems like accessibility and like ease of cooperation are really big key points for this expansion.
No, that's important. I
Yeah.
mean, the servers are there essentially to have separate instances of the same world, but just to kind of lighten the load on the entire system, so then everyone's all grouped on one. Now, how are they, like, it just seems though, how are they going to mitigate that? Like, what happens if all of a sudden everyone just dumps onto one of the servers, for example?
So the server that you start on is considered your home world, and whatever you're visiting, it's whenever you hop over, it's like a guest or visiting world. You can do most things that you would do on your home server, with the exception of a handful of like key things. One, you can't sell items on the markets of guest worlds, so that'll keep the economies of each of those for tanky. You can buy stuff, but you can't sell.
Oh, that makes sense.
You can't own an in-game house on a guest world because there's like a limited number of plots. So that keeps people from like server hopping and hogging all the land or whatever.
Can't just get a timeshare, no?
Right. Just find a friend. Actually, that is a thing. You can like invite friends to have partial property ownership of your house and give them access to it.
Oh, neat. Here's the keys. We are at this level of our relationship.
Right? So cool. So there was a bunch of other things. Nothing that would like impede day to day. Oh, I just want to hop over and play a dungeon with my friend. But like some things that will sort of keep the balance set between servers.
So you don't kind of overstay your welcome.
Yeah, and the nice thing, like you can actually, they said you can stay on a guest server as long as you want. You hop over and you're there. Like even if you log out, when you log back in, you'll be in the same spot.
But, cool. So that's the last place you basically were.
Mm-hmm. So it's pretty freeing, I think, but they're just doing what they can to make sure that everybody still kind of has like their base server that they're from with all their like home stuff. So
that's important.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm getting long-winded into technical details here, but
it's okay.
So I was at FanFest. I got to see the live announcement of all that stuff. They are adding a new race to the game, which is heavily implied to be the Viera from Final Fantasy Tactics, 12. Yeah, Tactics A2 Evilise, basically.
Evilise world, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so bunny peoples.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that'll also introduce audiences to more lore about them and such.
Yeah, so in the Stormblood expansion that's about to wrap up in Part 1 January, Part 2 March. So by March, Stormblood will be wrapped up. Throughout that, there's been the Return to Evilise raid series, which has featured some iconic locations from Final Fantasy Tactics and 12, and some characters like Begamnon, the Bounty Hunter, and Delita and Ramza from Tactics. Yoshi P, the director of the game, hinted that in the final leg of that, which comes out in January, we're going to see, like the way that he phrased it, it was like he showed a picture of a character wearing Balthier's armor, which is a new reward that you can get from the new dungeon.
Slick.
And they were like, you'll see a character that's strongly connected to Balthier. I wonder who it could be. So it sounds like Fran is going to appear both as like a reference / cameo and also as a tease for the Viera race coming out in.
Oh, not Pinello.
Yeah. I mean, he did save her from being kidnapped. But
it's true.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, up until this point, when I was speaking to the lore comment, like we've only seen Viera as female. So will there be a male option? Because there's a male and female for each race, is there not? Mm-hmm. Or no?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, there is. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, originally in the base version of Final Fantasy 14 1.0, they only had male Rogadin and like female Makote, the cat girl. So
that's where I was confused. I couldn't remember, but I feel like I've seen the male Rakote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they have since implemented both options for every race. So yeah, I would think that they would introduce male Viera, unless what they do is introduce two races and it's like female Viera and male Bonga or something.
Which I could see them doing to kind of skirt it, because in the end, the races in that game are just skins. They don't do any stat bonuses or any skill bonuses, correct?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's like a minuscule effect on your stats, but it's so minor that nobody notices it or cares. Like, it's like 0.01% as far as I know, so it really doesn't matter that much.
I just want them to make Moogles playable.
Oh my God, that'd be so cute.
What are the little folk?
Lalitha?
Yeah, just them running, like a party of them and Moogles running around, like the squishiest little like death
furry
party.
Yeah, I mean they already have I mean, Moogles feature prominently in 14, but they could do like the evilly Smoogles, the kind of taller, proportioned ones.
Yeah, they look like Mont Blanc. With the
Yes, so
that would be pretty great.
cute.
I'd be
Yeah.
into that.
hmm So anyway, all of those details aside, I got to go to Fan Festival. I did. It feels kind of odd plugging this on the RPG Fan podcast, but over at CGM, I did do an interview. I was participated rather in like a group interview Q&A session with the director of the game, Naoki Yoshida.
Mhm.
So if you go over to cgmagonline.com, you can read my interview. I keep saying interview. It basically was an interview. The results of the Q&A session that I wrote up. You can read that if you want some more Shadowbringers details. But yeah, so I was there. Oh my God, I do not like Las Vegas at all.
It's never held appeal to me, to be honest. No offense to
I-
people from Las Vegas. I'm sure it's all kinds of nice, but yeah, I've never had
I
that
think
appeal to it.
I think it's just not my scene. I've been there. This is my third time going, and I went to a previous fan festival in Las Vegas as well. But back when I lived in Tucson, my roommate, he's from Las Vegas. So when we went, we stayed with his parents in Henderson, which is kind of on the outskirts of Las Vegas. And
Okay.
I think having that separation made me a lot more comfortable, like being able to like go back to somewhere quiet and not just super boisterous and loud and bright.
Yeah, it's a
Because
very party place.
yeah, I'm just not like, I'll unwind and have fun, and I can party a bit, but like Vegas is just too much for me. And also it was so dry, and being in a hotel that allowed smoking was just like, ugh.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I haven't been in a building in ages that allows smoking. It throws me off every once in a while when I find that.
Yeah, I'm not a smoker, and it really like dried my skin out and stuff. So I was very glad to go on the trip to experience FanFest. It was like I was excited to get in because I thought I was going to miss it originally, so it kind of like came as a nice surprise that I was able to get in.
Oh, great.
But yeah, it was a good time. Vegas isn't really for me, but FanFest is fantastic, and even if they have it in Vegas next time, I will still go because it is super fun. And shout outs to Royo and Hatsumi, who I made friends with at Fan Festival, people I met for the first time. One Twitter friend and one friend of a friend who I ended up meeting, and we're just super, super, super cool folks. One of the best parts of playing an online game like that is the community. So it's really amazing when you can make a connection like that and have it pan out so well. Like we had such natural chemistry. It felt like we'd been friends forever when we were hanging out. So
Oh, fantastic. Which you were speaking very highly about. They had that video because it's the end. What's the anniversary coming up? Is the fifth year?
fifth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they had that anniversary video, which you spoke on Twitter very highly about that effect of the community, the connection, the world that's been built in A Realm Reborn and such.
Yes, very much so. And that was a big thing that they kept touching on whenever they had keynote presentations and such. They were just like, this wouldn't be happening without this community, without these fans being here, without all of you, we wouldn't have this event. So I think that everybody on both ends of the exchange, both the fans and the team making Final Fantasy 14, are aware of how strong that is and how important it is to foster it going forward.
It's absolutely key. Like we have seen over the years many MMORPGs come and go because of the fact that they have a lot of ambitious ideas and execution seems to be great, but if the fan base isn't there to support the product, it can't sustain itself.
Yep. So 14, I mean, we've said it a billion times, but they really rose from the ashes and made it a game that people love playing, myself included. So
is Phoenix a summon yet in that game?
There's Phoenix as a boss, and there's Suzaku, which is a separate boss.
Oh,
but no Phoenix that you can summon or anything.
One question I have for you before we move on from FF14 is, what was the greatest photo op? Because I know there's been fat chocobos to get your photos on before.
Okay, so I didn't get to do it, which is a bummer. I had a lot of like meetings, and I had to do writing and stuff, so I couldn't.
Stop being so important, Derek.
I couldn't stand in any line for very long, but they had this like 3D photo booth thing. I've never seen anything like it before. Basically, they had people get on this like disc-shaped platform, and you would strike a pose, and they had 360-degree cameras that would rotate. That the platform rotated, and it would get you all around. And so, you would get at the end of the session. I saw my friends do it. They give you like an MP4 video of you rotating on the platform, as well as like a boomerang on Instagram and a still photo. It was so freaking cool. And seeing
was
the
it
things
on a background.
Yeah, I forget what the background was. It was like I think it was the Shadowbringers themed background or
Okay,
something. Yeah, but it was just like a really cool 3D photo thing. I
gotcha. I
wish I
wasn't
would have
sure if it
gotten
was like
one.
a green screen thing, and then they kind of immersed you in the world or something. That would have been neat too.
Yeah, I think that's what they did. So.
Oh, cool.
Hmm.
That is very neat.
Super neat. Yeah, in the past, you're right. They did have a fat chocobo. They did that at E3.
Yes,
I
that's right. Because
believe
that
I
was
sat
probably
in
part
here.
of their whole marketing package. Because you do see these things make the tour around and other different conventions as they go around. Which, when you're investing that much money into an elaborate giant chocobo to get your photo on, you're gonna get your money's worth out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeez. I can't imagine how much those things cost to run, too. Oof.
Well, exactly, to get built and then let alone transport them across the country intact. Like,
Seriously.
Arc years in the past, my fiance and I got shots done up on the big giant T-Rex they had set up at PAX, which again, I'm sure that thing toured wherever Arc was for that entire year. And like getting that around the country, I can't imagine is easy or cheap.
Yeah, right. You need a semi or like a semi on top of a semi.
Exactly, right? Depending on how it comes apart. And yeah, it's incredibly amount of money that's put into the marketing machine at these conventions and to immerse you in the world of the game as best they can. On top of that, like the giant Rathian for Monster Hunter, or sorry, Rathalos for Monster Hunter
Mm-hmm.
World when it was coming out was really cool, but it's impressive and scary all at the same time. Just if you stop and think too long about where all the money going into it and where it could go otherwise, but at the same time, it just makes such a mark on your memories too.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to go to that convention and
Hmm.
soak all that ambiance up. And now I'm even more excited to play Final Fantasy 14 than ever. So you will not hear me shut up about it anytime soon.
Or much less anybody else in RPG fan. A lot of people are big fans. It's
It's
something
true.
I every time a new expansion comes out. So Mike Solosi was speaking about this as well. That it just you get that itchy trigger finger to want to like jump in.
Hmm. And they usually go out of their way to try and make it accessible whenever there's a big update like this. Like you can, I mean, I wouldn't do this just because it's not the way I like to play, but you can now buy item, like you can spend real money to have them like boost a character to max level for you and clear all the stories so that you can start on right with the new stuff right away with everybody else if you wanted to.
Huh.
But
A little bit of a fast track.
yeah.
Or you can spend money to buy someone's account. I don't know. Is that still a thing? I know that was a big thing in World of Warcraft. I don't know if that's a thing with this
Yeah,
community.
right? It used to be for Final Fantasy 11 too,
Oh,
but
was it? I
I
wonder
don't
how
know.
they've mitigated that somehow, or not really. I don't know if they can really control that, right?
Yeah, maybe it still happens, but the
Yeah,
fact that you can pay to boost your own character probably
we
mitigates
cut
some of
down to that.
that.
They may as well get the cut themselves instead of letting someone else get it. It's a
Yeah.
smart business move, really.
Mm-hmm. They know what they're doing. Well, the only other thing that I've really delved into recently, I played this actually on the plane to and from Las Vegas. It was my first time experiencing it, so I'm pretty behind the curve on this one. But I finally jumped into Night in the Woods.
Ooh.
I believe that Caitlin was speaking pretty highly of this
Agreed.
on the podcast a while back, and unfortunately, she is actually raiding tonight in Final Fantasy 14, so she's unable to be here.
Fortunately, unfortunately, I'm sure she's
Yeah,
not sad about it, but
good for her, bad for us.
exactly.
Hmm. But Night in the Woods is the how would I describe this? Like snarky, kind of occult, like text-heavy visual, not visual novel, but like adventure game starring a sarcastic college dropout cat named May.
Is it like for like it seems to me from the outside, it's a bunch of millennial animals. Am I am I
Basically,
am I wrong? But
more or
millennial
less.
hipster animals,
Yeah,
I guess.
no. The writing is very contemporary. It's intentionally omitting a lot of punctuation and like eschewing grammatical conventions to effect, which I think is clever. The story goes that May is a 20-year-old cat person, and people don't seem to really acknowledge that they're animal people. I don't know. She's a cat. She went to college. She dropped out. She moved back to her sleepy little town of, I believe it's called Possum Springs, something like that. She moves back to her hometown, which is a very quiet little podunk sort of place. And when she gets back, she's just trying to sort of pick up her life where she left it. She's trying to reconnect with the friends that she left behind and see what's changed and what hasn't in the town. And she finds that some people aren't ready to just welcome her back with open arms. some people are excited that she's back, but there's a lot of very self-aware writing. May explores this like idea that she's kind of a failure, and the game isn't afraid to delve deep into that stuff. It doesn't really. I mean, it's not like overly subtle about it. May says things like, "I'm a piece of garbage. I'm a nightmare person. I'm never going to do anything with my life." Uh, there's a scene fairly early in the game, yeah, where she goes to she gets invited to like a party out in the woods, and she starts drinking, and her friends are like, "Maybe you should cool it. Like, we're watching over you. Don't drink anymore." And she sees her ex, and so she's like, "Oh, I have to drink more to deal with him." And she like you as the player, you have to click on the beer to progress the game, even though you're like, May, stop doing this. And she continues drinking. And after a few beers, she like basically she stands up and starts making a fool of herself and like saying all kinds of stupid stuff. And then her childhood friend gives her a ride home. And all of the dialogue options that May has, they're written in like perfect prose, but like perfect grammar. It'll say things like, B, I am so sorry for my actions tonight. I truly owe you the most sincere of apologies. And then when you click on that, May will be like, I'm sorry, I'm a piece of garbage. So like everything comes out all drunk, even though you select, the proper thought, which I thought was very clever.
And I feel like it's very on point. I've had someone describe that exact instance to me when they were just like, I was so drunk and what I felt I was saying made all the sense in the world. But what they told me I said was not at all what I thought I said.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I've ever seen a game do that before. Very clever way of handling drunkenness. So, yeah, it seems like Night in the Woods themes have a lot to do with sort of like finding your place and some existentialist dread, but it's also got occult themes. I haven't really gotten too deep into that, but on I think the first night of May being back in town, she's like at her friends with the diner. Sorry, at a diner with her friends, and when they leave the diner, they just find a severed arm on the ground, and they're like, what's that? Yeah, and they're like, May, you poke it, and so it goes into like a little like mini game where you control May's arm, like poking the arm with a stick. It's very comical, but I have a feeling there may be some dark stuff lying beneath the surface, because May's had a couple of dreams that have been fairly dark and ominous, but then during the daytime she's just sort of lamenting her life and her station and everything. So
it feels very relevant.
Yeah, it's very, very modern is the most I can say about the style.
There's definitely a lot of people out there, I feel, who are stuck in that same place these days.
Mm-hmm. And it's got a very nice art style. It's like a very smooth, kind of cartoonish animated style. I don't really know how to describe it. A lot of the characters, I think, look like paper cutouts, kind of.
I'd say that's a good way to describe it. Yeah, the art style is really neat.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty. And I haven't noticed a ton of music, but there is like May used to play in a band, and I guess I still have one. So there's a few mini games where they're like, "Come on, May, we're gonna play a song. You're on bass," and she's like, "I barely remember how to play bass, and I don't even know the song." And it just launches you into the mini game where you have to like play it by pressing the buttons at the right timing. It's funny.
And I was gonna say, do you just sit there and play D the whole time? Because that'd be great.
Well, yeah, I mean it. Yeah. No, it's afterwards they comment on it. So like if you do badly, they're like, "Wow, you did terribly." She'll be like, "I told you I don't even know the song." But if you do well, they're like, "Hey, you picked that up pretty fast." And she's like, "I don't know how, but sure." So it's not required to proceed, but yeah, it's just sort of like a little bit of flavor to add on to it. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the game so far. If I have a criticism, it is that it is pretty laboriously paced. I'm finding that you have to kind of like, there's a structure of you go back to May's house, you go to sleep, and then you wake up and you sort of wander around the town until it triggers the next story beat. And once that's over, you typically go back to her house and sleep again, and the process repeats anew. And you visit some new areas in the meantime, but a lot of it is kind of crawling through the same town screens until you figure out where it is that you want to go.
Okay. And does it offer, because you were saying earlier about the whole party thing and with like you had to click on the beer to proceed, so you couldn't like try and help May take ownership of her drunkenness.
Right,
like,
which is what I wanted to do.
Is there a lot of choices, or?
I don't know. I actually have no idea, like, if there's any branching paths in this game or multiple endings or whatever. I haven't looked that up, and I'm kind of curious if there are, because I feel like at least in that one scenario I was in, I had no control over it. Like I tried doing everything I possibly could have. I clicked on everything in the area multiple times, and it would not let me proceed until I clicked on the beer. So I know that they have updated Night in the Woods since release with some extra content. So I don't know if that's like a branching thing or if it's after the epilogue or what. But
yeah, or if there's some stuff's crucial to the story and it has to be played out, and other stuff you do get some more choice and such. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, no doubt.
But, well, I think, this is going to wrap it up for us today. This is kind of a bite-sized episode, but Greg and I were the only people available to do this on kind of short notice right now. It's been about 3 weeks since our last episode, so I didn't want to push it out anymore. I wanted to get something out for you guys. But that's really all we've been playing and doing. We've got some fun stuff coming up.
Yep, we've got Game of the Year. That's going to be a thing soon because we're coming to that end of the year and music of the year and all that sort of fun stuff.
We sure are.
And then we got people playing games.
Yep.
Hopefully be here.
Yes, I want to talk more about Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu. Greg just barely touched upon the fact that he is getting it. And I've also only put maybe like half an hour into it myself. So I want to get maybe Alana or Peter onto the show. I know that they played it and they have thoughts. So we will delve into that on the next episode for sure.
Absolutely. Hey, Derek, before we go, we do have one good question from Cyanide. If RPG Fan is an RPG, what class and level would you be at RPG Fan?
Good question. Well, I've been an RPG Fan over 8 years now, so I'm not the most senior person on staff, but I've been here a hot minute, if you will.
Very hot minute, sir.
I used to do. I mean, I've had a lot of positions here, from writing to proofreading to participating in the podcast to hosting, to like interviewing and like PR liaison and stuff. So I've done a lot of things.
You have? My gosh.
What would I be? Back in the day, I would say I was a healer when I was proofreading people's work all the time. These days, I'm more of a DPS since I'm putting all the stuff out there. I think people like Mike and Alana, they have to sort of coordinate everything. I think they're the tanks, I would say.
Oh, I can see that.
So I'm more of a DPS and probably a caster because that's my style. And I don't know, moderately high level.
I was going to say, would your 8 years equate to level 80 or just level 8? Like, what's our cap here, right?
That is a good question. Well, I would say the cap would have to be whatever the level is of the person who's been here the longest, which would be Mike Salvato. And he's been around since the early LunarNet days. I don't even know how many years now.
Yeah, he's got to be almost 99.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm probably going to sound terrible here. I'm going to pick this up or pull it up because I don't want to say something stupid. I want to say it's been since like 99. Mike Salvato's been here since, June 1999. So that would make him level 19.
Let's take that.
So I'm level 8.
Level 20 cap. So
Okay. And what about you, Greg? What's your class?
I would say just based on where I am, which I just got like a slight upgrade in where I was moved around in the staff, as Mike acknowledged the fact that you're not just doing podcast stuff anymore. You're doing a bunch of things. So I'm kind of like general contributing staff. So I'm going to borrow right from Final Fantasy V, and I'll say I'm like a level 2 freelancer.
Ooh.
I can use all the weapons, kind of.
You can. You know what? I think you're less of a freelancer and more of an onion knight.
Oh, yep. I'll take it.
Yeah. Because you're like, you got the potential. You're going to be like top of the class one of these days. You're already amazing. You can already do so many things.
But it's still a slow build. There's a lot of work that has to go into mastering it all.
Jeez, yeah. I didn't mean to disparage you. I just meant to say that onion knights are probably stronger than freelancers.
I'm totally I got that. I mean, it's not that I thought you were saying I'm handsome and I make people cry, but
you are. But are onions handsome?
No, or is it just a night cry? They make people cry.
Yeah, they sure do.
I'm layered like an onion.
Ooh, multifaceted.
Mm-hmm. Somebody. No.
Oh my God. That is not the kind of show we are running here, Greg. You should know that.
Oh no, it's the meme police.
It sure is. The fun police is here. Time to log off.
That's true. Let's do that thing.
Well, if you guys being the listeners, have any other questions, comments, or spare potions, a la the one that we just answered, responded to, drank, chugged like a potion, I don't know. You can send those our way. You can email us podcast@rpgfan.com, or you can get in touch on the Discord. Just tag Greg on it, and we will get you set up. If you don't have a link to the Discord, you can find that on the RPG Fan main page towards the top. It is pretty noticeable, so hopefully you can find it. And if not, send us an email and we will hook you up. You can also follow us on Twitter @RPGFancom, and you can like our Facebook page at facebook.com/RPGFancom. Subscribe to us on and the Instagram. That's right. Subscribe to us on iTunes through the RSS feed and check out our Instagram. Oh my gosh. Steph, one of our social media editors, does the most amazing stuff on Instagram. She makes all these custom images. She'll do like review digests sometimes. She'll do art galleries for games with art that we haven't seen in a long time. So she is on top of it.
The digests are really nice. Like it makes us feel like we have a magazine.
I know. They're like magazine quality.
It's fantastic.
Not to toot her on horn, but they're amazing. And she's amazing.
So, well, we'll toot Steph's horn anytime because Steph's great. And
Steph
that sounded like a weird euphemism. We're going to walk away from that.
It didn't until you made it one. You're guilty. Guilty. Well, we have so many avenues for you to communicate with us through, so please pick one of them and fire your buckshot, and we will get back to you. So, whatever, spray and pray. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. For me and Greg, we appreciate you listening, and we will see you all later.